Oh, look at that. I'm supposed to unmute. I'm a professional. Hey, great to have you here. I'm Dave Henning with the Fresh Start Podcast, fresh ideas for business and personal growth. And I have a very wonderful treat today to have back with me live from December of last year, Terry Tucker, Sustainable Excellence. And you are the author of that book. And we want to talk about some new things and kind of hit the rewind button as well. You've had a very interesting career. You've moved around almost as much as I have, actually. So you are an author, you're a survivor. And again, you're on December 21st of last year. And we talked about back then 10 principles to leading your uncommon and extraordinary life to help people find and live their uncommon and extraordinary life. And you recently started a membership program. We will be talking about that very soon. But anyway, welcome, Terry.
Thanks, Dave. I'm really excited to be back on with you and have another chat.
Oh, this is terrific. And so I want to do a flashback rewind because last time we talked about a couple of things, and you reinvented yourself basically over your career. Let's talk about basketball first of all. Tell us about your time at the Citadel playing basketball and some of the people you played against. Amazing.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I played Division One college basketball at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. Had the opportunity to play against Michael Jordan. It was my senior year, his freshman year, so he wasn't quite the Michael Jordan that we all know and love today. One of his teammates, Horace Grant, who played at Clemson, we played against him. Just a puller from when I was in high school, I played against Isaiah Thomas, who played for the University of Indiana, won a national championship with Bobby Knight, and then went on to the Detroit Pistons and won a couple NBA championships with them as well. I'll give you a kind of a funny story. My youngest brother was a high school basketball coach in Chicago and actually coached Michael Jordan's two sons. And he tells the story. He said, I was in practice one day, and it was towards the end of practice, and I was teaching the players a particular play. And he said, I looked up and nobody was paying attention to anything he was saying. So I looked where they were looking, and we're looking over at the gym. And Michael Jordan had come into the gym as a dad. I'm here to pick up my kids after practice and take them home. And so my brother said to him, it's like, hey, Michael, you're a little bit of a distraction. Would you mind stepping out until practice is over? And Jordan and his wife were incredibly gracious. I mean, they never tried to coach the team or anything. And Jordan's like, sure, coach, I'm really sorry for the distraction. I'll wait out in the hall till practice was over. And my brother thought later, I'm probably the only coach in the history of basketball that's ever kicked Michael Jordan out of practice. So
exactly. That is such an awesome story. Of course, now he's in Charlotte with the revitalized Hornets. I guess they're still the Hornets. I was there under the old owner and got to meet the previous guy before they moved out of town. So very cool. So let me guess, you really love basketball.
I really do. I grew up, it's me, and I have two brothers. I'm 6'8". I have a brother who's the one who coached Jordan's two sons, is 6'7" and was a pitcher for the University of Notre Dame. And then I have another brother who's 6'6", who was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the National Basketball Association. And then my dad was 6'5". So I sort of joke that if you sat behind our family in church growing up, there wasn't a prayer's chance you were going to see anything that was going on.
Forget about it. Right. Well, I never told you this because I didn't know how tall you were, but my dad was 6'6", and he went to a little tiny high school. I think they only had like 20 people in his graduating class, but he played center in his little basketball team in high school. He used to tell, how tall are you, Dad, Don? And he'd say, I'm 5'18".
Yeah, that's what I always say. I'm 5'20", so it's.
Oh, so that's not a new joke. Okay.
No, that's a good one, though. Hey, it keeps going, right?
Yeah, exactly. The gift that keeps on giving. So can you talk a little bit about it's been more than 9 years now, your battle with cancer, and maybe kind of get people in touch with, my goodness, you had an experience and a half with that. Tell us some more about that. And I know the story because you told me before, MD Anderson and all that stuff. So
Yeah, it's been over 10 years now, and started back in 2012. I was a girls' high school basketball coach in Texas, and I had a callus break open on the bottom of my foot, right below my third toe. And initially, didn't think much of it because as a coach, you're on your feet a lot. But after a few weeks of it not healing, I made an appointment and went to see a podiatrist, a foot doctor friend of mine. And he took an X-ray and he said, "Terry, I think you have a cyst in there, and I can cut it out." And he did. And he showed it to me. It was just a little gelatin sack with some white fat in it, no dark spots, no blood, nothing that gave either one of us concern. But fortunately or unfortunately, he sent it off to pathology to have it looked at. And then 2 weeks later, I received a call from him. And as I mentioned, he was a friend of mine. And the more difficulty he was having explaining what was going on, the more frightened I was becoming, until finally he just laid it out for me. He said, "Terry, I've been a doctor for 25 years. I have never seen this form of cancer. You have a rare form of melanoma that appears on the bottom of the feet or the palms of the hands. And because your cancer is so incredibly rare," he recommended, as you said, to go to MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston and be treated. And so I did. I had surgery to remove the tumor on the bottom of my foot and all the lymph nodes in my groin. And then when I healed, my oncologist put me on a weekly injection of a drug called Interferon to help keep the disease from coming back. You probably remember this. And the side effects of the Interferon were that it gave me severe flu-like symptoms for 2 to 3 days every week after each injection. And I took those weekly injections for almost 5 years. So imagine having the flu every week for 5 years. And like I said, that wasn't a cure. That was, as my oncologist used to say, we're kicking the can down the road in the hopes we can buy you more time for additional therapies to become available. 2017, I'd been on the Interferon for 5 years, became so toxic to my body that I ended up in the intensive care unit with a body temperature of 108 degrees, which usually is not compatible with being alive. I was fortunate that I was at a trauma center, so they were able to stabilize me. Had to stop taking the Interferon, and almost immediately the cancer came back in the exact same spot on my foot where it had presented 5 years earlier. And that necessitated the amputation of my left foot in 2018. Cancer worked its way up my leg into my shin in 2019, 2 more surgeries, and then finally an undiagnosed tumor in my ankle kind of area grew large enough that it fractured my tibia, my shin bone. And my only recourse right in the middle of the pandemic was to have my left leg amputated above the knee. And I also found out I had tumors in my lungs, which I'm still being treated for. So I know that sounds like a very dark and ugly journey, and it certainly has been, but I'll say this much: cancer has made me a better human being.
Wow. And I know when we talked last, it was kind of like you explained with some friends that were in the treatment. You said you were like the last man standing. And so what are you doing here, man? You're still alive.
I am. And every day I kind of get up and I'm like, well, sort of pinch myself. I guess God's not done with me yet. Still have things to do. And I remember several months ago, my oncologist showed me my CAT scans back in 2020. And I have no medical background, but I kind of know, like, well, that probably shouldn't be there. It doesn't look like it belongs. And I remember looking at the scan, and I had fluid all around the pleural spaces of my lungs. I had these big tumors in my lungs. And I looked at my oncologist and I was like, how was I alive? And he kind of, shook his head and smiled. And he's like, I don't know. Which said to me that, what? God isn't done with me yet. And so I'm here to fulfill whatever purpose he wants me to do. And hopefully that's to make people's lives a little bit better.
Well, it seems to me the last podcast, I titled it Pray for Terry. I can't take any credit whatsoever, but somebody's been praying for you.
Absolutely. And hey, I'll take anything I can get.
Including myself. Yeah. So obviously you've went through stages of hopelessness, but you talked about something I'm curious to revisit, and that is, what are your 4 truths and how did you come up with those? Let's talk about that for a second.
Sure. So my four truths, I call them my four truths. I mean, they're not mine. I don't have them copyrighted, or I don't own
Sure.
them. I don't think you can own a truth, but they're certainly, they're what I call sort of the bedrock of my soul. They're just a good place to build a solid foundation and to build a quality life off of. And I have them, I'm looking at them right now. I have them on a Post-it note right here on my desk, and they're just one sentence each. And here's what they are. The first one is control your mind, or your mind is going to control you. The second one is embrace the pain and the difficulty that we all experience in life, and use that pain and difficulty to make us stronger and more resilient individuals. The third one is more of a legacy truth, for lack of a better word. And it's this: what you leave behind is what you weave in the hearts of other people. Wow. And then the fourth one is, as long as you don't quit, you can never be defeated. So those are, I use those to make my decisions, along with what I call my 3 F's: faith, family, and friends. And they're kind of the cornerstones, the bedrock that I use to help make decisions in my life.
Those are fantastic four truths. And we will have everybody say, listen to this podcast again, write them down, because I think everybody who ever survived so far 2020 has challenges, and those 4 truths will, let's just say, come in really, really handy. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree.
So, all right, you have quite a career. Let's kind of review this real quickly here. So you, let's see, you went to the Citadel.
I did.
And then you went to Columbus, Ohio area. And you worked for the Wendy's Corporation.
Yeah, in their corporate headquarters, which is in Dublin, just outside northwest suburbs of Columbus. So yeah, I was fortunate to become a field marketing trainee in their corporate headquarters.
Okay, so Wendy's. So let's see. So how many Frosties did you have?
More than I probably should have. I got to be very good friends with the woman who was in new product development. And Wendy's had an area in their corporate office. And this woman, her name was Kathy, she would come around every morning and say, hey, would you like to be involved in a taste test? You had no idea what you were taking. They might give you a Frosty, they might give you a hamburger, and you could eat the whole hamburger, but they may be looking at a new ketchup, a new bun, a new hamburger patty, a new cheese, whatever it is. So you didn't know, but it was a great way to have a free lunch every day.
Yeah, no kidding. So did you have a favorite flavor of Frosty?
I am a traditionalist. I love the chocolate version. So
oh man, after my own heart, chocolate. Absolutely. Well, the cool part of those is you could hold them upside down.
You can, yeah. They don't.
As
put
opposed
the spoon in it and everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then let's see. From there, where'd you go next? California?
No, from there I actually became a hospital administrator.
Right.
And then California after that.
What was that like, the hospital thing?
It was interesting because what I did for the hospital was new program development. So I was able to take my new product marketing background with Wendy's and then go to the hospital and work with different operational areas. And it was a large hospital. It was like 5,000 employees, 1,100 beds. And so we worked on all different programs, and I would bring the operational people together, the finance people together, the marketing people. And is this a viable program? Is this something we should do? And we would decide, and then we would make recommendations to the administrative staff and things like that. So it was a lot of fun. I had no patient contact, and the patients were very happy about that. But it was a great learning experience for me, and I got to be involved in with some great doctors and nurses and technicians and therapists and things like that. And I probably learned more in that period of time than I've ever learned at one particular job in my life.
Oh, of course. And then if that wasn't something, next thing you know, you're getting into a SWAT team police officer thing. What is
Well,
going on, man?
yeah. So my wife and I got met. My wife, I was working at the hospital. We moved to California for her job, and I was a customer service manager for an academic publishing company out there. But I also was able to kind of dip my toe in the law enforcement career. My grandfather had been a Chicago police officer from 1924 to 1954. So he was in Chicago during Prohibition, when alcohol was outlawed in the United States, during the Great Depression, the late 1920s, early 1930s. And when the gangsters, Al Capone and those guys were shooting up the town, and was actually shot in the line of duty with his own gun. It was not a serious injury. He was shot in the ankle. But my dad always remembered the stories that my grandmother told. My dad was an infant at the time, of the stories my grandmother told of that knock on the door of, Mrs. Tucker, come grab your son, come with us. Your husband's been shot. I mean, and let's face it, trauma medicine in 1935 was a whole lot different than trauma medicine, today. So when I expressed an interest in going into law enforcement, my father was, absolutely not. You're going to go to college. You're going to major in business. You're going to get out, get a great job, have 2.4 kids, and live happily ever after.
Right.
But that's what my dad wanted me to do. And so you sort of understand my resume now, because my first two jobs were in business out of love and respect for my father. And I sort of joke, I did what every good son did. I waited till my father passed away, and then I followed my own dreams.
Right. Well, my grandson out of Charlotte wanted to come out and tour for school Alcatraz. So I got to see Al Capone's little cell that he occupied out there. Very interesting place for sure. But that was amazing. All the amazing stories that come out of Chicago, as we all know. So those were different times for sure.
They were.
So you went into the SWAT police thing in California, but didn't you do something back in Cincinnati with the?
I did. I started out as a uniformed reserve police officer in Santa Barbara, California. And then when our daughter was born and we moved to Cincinnati, that's when I became a full-time police officer. I started out working, in a uniform in a marked car, answering radio runs and stuff. And then I moved to the drug unit. And then I moved to the SWAT team as a hostage negotiator. So, and I know people always laugh, like, you were an undercover narcotics investigator. You're 6'8". How did you possibly do that? It was just one of those things. If you had money, you could buy drugs. So
yeah. How did you do that? But oh my gosh, you stand out like a sore tall person. And
you did. I worked in in an undercover unit. I never changed my appearance. I never grew a beard. I never grew my hair long. I never did any of that. Yeah. And because what motivates that industry, and illicit drugs, unfortunately, is an industry, is greed. And, we would do weird things. I remember one time I was working the night shift, and my old partner had come down to the unit. She was working the day shift, and she called me and she said, hey, I've got these kids that are coming down from Dayton, Ohio, and they want to sell you drugs. Will you buy from them tonight? And I'm like, yeah, sure. What's the story? And I posed as a professor of metallurgy at the University of Cincinnati, and I met these kids in a park, and I'm like, I don't know anything about metal other than you put it out in the rain and it rusts. That was about the extent of my knowledge of metal. And so I did. I met these kids in the park. They, jumped in my car. I looked at the drugs. I gave them the money. They got out, got back in their car, and then were swarmed by my fellow officers in the unit and a bunch of marked cars. So instead of partying in Cincinnati that night, they were guests of the Hamilton County Justice Center. So,
welcome to your new home. Okay, so now you're back in Ohio from Santa Barbara, California, and then what happened next?
Then I was able to get onto the SWAT team and became a hostage negotiator with them. And then my wife lost her job, and my wife has pretty much always been the primary breadwinner in our family. So I had to leave the job in Cincinnati, and we moved to Texas. And that's when I started a school security consulting business. And I started coaching girls high school basketball. fortunately or unfortunately, our daughter got my height. She's 6'2", actually went to the United States Air Force Academy to play basketball, and
cool.
played her freshman year, messed up her knee, had to have surgery, and that was the end of basketball. But she did graduate in 2019, and now she's an officer in the Space Force.
Oh, how cool is that? Very interesting. I'm laughing because I just watched a clip of that Space Force comedy movie.
Oh, with Steve Carell, and that.
Steve Carell singing the Beach Boys song, Aruba, Jamaica. Because we just had a hurricane that started in Aruba, so I was joking about the hurricane passing through Costa Rica, and I saw that clip, and I just share with my friends. But that's fantastic. My dad was in the Army, the old Army Air Corps back in World War II in intelligence, and over in England and France and all that stuff. So I didn't qualify for some weird reason to go into the military during the Vietnam War. So I was really blessed in that respect. But I always felt like it was so structured with my ADD that probably would have been good to have the structure. So you can be a proud dad for sure that she's serving, and that's very, very, very cool. So that's Texas. And then, of course, as we're coming full circle now, because you're very close to MD Anderson, where my brother-in-law was treated for, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 years there as well for whatever he had. So, but now we've come full circle, and actually, you really clarified a lot of your background story of why did you do this and why did you do that. It makes sense. It really does make sense. And now we want to talk about what you are up to these days, and you are starting a membership program to help leaders and young professionals find and live their uncommon and extraordinary life. And you are a very uncommon and extraordinary person that I really appreciate being here. And you started that small business. Let's talk about Motivational Check LLC. What is it, and explain who would this make sense for, and why would they want to do it?
Yeah, so Motivational Check was a blog that I started back in 2019 or something. People were saying, you've got all these different sayings and things like that. I'm always quoting somebody, and they're like, you should put that somewhere where people can have access to it. So I started Motivational Check, and I still do this every day. I put up a thought for the day on motivationalcheck.com. Yeah. With that thought usually comes a question about maybe how you could apply that thought into your life. On Mondays, I put up the Monday morning motivational message, which is sometimes a little bit longer. It's a story or a video that I find. And then in 2020, I published my book, Sustainable Excellence, the 10 Principles to Leading Your Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. And through the people that have read the book, through the people who have listened to me on podcasts and things like that, I started to get interest in, hey, you should have a membership. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. My goal has always been to help people, to always make a difference in people's lives. And, it's kind of like when people suggested I write a book. I was really, no, I don't really think I want to do that. But enough people kind of suggested it. I think that's kind of God's way of saying, hey, listen, dummy, I'm telling you what to do here. Take advantage of what I'm doing here. You have the opportunity. We have free will to say, no, I don't want to do that.
Sure.
But I'm smart enough to realize that when enough people start to make that suggestion, I should probably sort of buck up and listen to it. So that led to the book. And this now enough people have said it, like, you should have a membership. We really want to dive deeper into the book. We want to take the chapters, and that's what the membership is. It's a chapter where I dive deeper into it, kind of get into the, and I'm not a psychologist, and I don't want to give, mental health advice. I can't do that, but I do have some experience. I've been through some things as we've discussed. And so each chapter I break down into, more things. And I'm a big list guy. I like, tell me, go A, B, C, and D and help me to get to that. And so that's what I do. There are videos that come out every week. We kind of drip them out every week, along with a kind of a bonus video that I found that I think is good. And we just do that with each of the chapters in the book. And that's what the membership is about. And I've had such a diverse background in my life with, being in law enforcement, being at the Citadel military college, having our daughter in the military, working in corporate America and things like that. So I really, when I talk about professionals or young people that are trying to figure out where do they go in life, what's their purpose and things like that, I really think that's kind of where the membership, the drive behind putting that membership together.
Yeah, and now are you going to do some things live as well, or mainly the? What?
Yeah, there's a community where people can get on. There's a monthly group coaching call where, if you've got questions or want to ask me a question about something that you read or saw in the videos, we can talk about that. I like the community aspect. What I'm finding now is that I was really kind of hesitant to begin with. Do we need a community? Is that something that's necessary? And I'm finding that a lot of people enjoy the opportunity to, get on with people that are like-minded, that are having the same issues, that are, having the same problems, and talk about, well, how did you do that? Well, this is what I did. And really sharing their experiences to help other people realize, hey, I'm not the only person who feels lost, right, or, I don't know where I'm going or things like that. There are other people out there too. So I really think the community is probably as big as the videos that I'm putting out there. As a matter of fact, I'm even finding some people, yeah, the videos are nice, but really the community is where it's at for me. So yeah, whatever works to try to improve your life, I don't care how you do it, as long as, it's something that you find benefit in. And that's really all I care about, really.
There really is a synergy when you're connecting with other people. And I'm kind of a people connector kind of a guy. So, doing Zoom meetings and not being in person for such a long time wasn't fun. Let's just say it that way.
Yeah, it was. I actually did my first in-person speaking gig a couple of weeks ago since the COVID situation started, and it was just so nice to be around people and be able to shake hands and talk to people and interact with them. I've really, like you, I've missed that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that sounds very, very intriguing. And well, let's go here first. Where do people need to go to explore what's included and what you're doing, and also if they're interested to sign up?
Yeah, the site is sustainableexcellencemembership.com. You can get to that by going to my site, motivationalcheck.com. It's on there as well, but you can just type in sustainableexcellencemembership.com and get there. And by going there, you can download a free copy of my book. So even if you don't sign up for the membership, you have the opportunity to download a copy of my book and read that. And and if you're on the fence, maybe the book will give you, hey, yeah, I want to learn more about that and stuff like that. So I'm offering you the book as sort of an incentive to get people to take a look at the membership.
Well, and I've been around long enough to be around all the old guys who have kind of, they're not around anymore, or they're in a different age bracket now. Some, Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy and Dennis Waitley and Zig Ziglar and all these guys from a previous generation now. So you're there's a bunch of us coming up there. You're the new kid on the block, and that's a good thing, that because you are in the age we're living in, you are needed in what's happening. It's what does John Maxwell say? In times like these, it's always good to know there have always been times like these.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, a lot of this stuff, it's not new. I mean, it's stuff that, since the time of, Plato and Aristotle and stuff, all this kind of stuff has been hashed around, and it's just a different way of looking at it and putting something on it that, hey, this resonates with me, or, that resonates with me. It's just a different way of looking at it that hopefully can help people.
as the comedian Steve Martin calls them, Plato and Socrates. But yeah, I had a great philosophy teacher back in my undergraduate days, and I think he was Irish, but he physically was made. He had no neck. His head was right, and so he was a fantastic philosophy teacher. I learned so much from him. But his line was, "I don't stick my neck out for anybody." So I was really blessed to have some incredible people, and the thing I captured from going to college and graduate school was of course all the knowledge and information, but the big thing for me was learning how to learn and to be a lifetime learner. And I hear what you're saying is you are a valuable resource for lifetime learning and for expanding your horizons with people who are of the same mentality. And of course, as our beloved Franklin Roosevelt said, you have nothing to fear except fear itself.
Absolutely.
Was that anywhere close? That was
a pretty good interpretation. I like that.
Or is that Winston Churchill who said that?
I think you said it. I think Roosevelt said it. Yeah.
Of course, Churchill. I love his stuff. He was a hilarious guy, smoking a cigar, and he'd say, "Never, never, never give up."
Yeah. Yeah. I quote him sometimes and I love his sayings, like, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Keep going. Exactly.
Yeah, I love that quote.
Yeah. Of course, he always had it with the British Parliament. He says, "There, but for the grace of God, goes God." Just some hilarious stuff.
Absolutely.
So, and as you know, you resonate with me because I think that, quite frankly, that humor, appropriate humor, connects with people and actually helps memory retention. It's a scientific fact that I just made up. No, it's
scientifically proven.
It is, yeah. No, it is true. It is true that there's something about keeping your sense of humor and your perspective in the midst of going through depression, fear, anxiety, which we all face in life. It's not just one of us. So sustainable, of course, as you know, I mistyped it. I misspelled it like 5 times before I got the banner correct. Sustainable Excellence Membership.com. And I'm speaking with Terry Tucker, the author of that book, Sustainable Excellence. You can actually get a free copy just by going to that website and snooping around, checking things out. Sign up for the community if you want to, and get the free book. Wow, why not? What a deal! Exactly. I probably asked you this before, but with all the jobs you've had, I'd like to end up. I'll ask you. You tell me if I asked you this last time, but what was your very first job ever as a kid or teenager, paid or unpaid?
So I guess I can say this now, since the IRS probably won't come back and get me on this. My father, I talked about working for Wendy's. My father worked for McDonald's, and we lived in Columbus, Ohio at the time. And the Ohio State Fair, I don't know if it still is, was the largest state fair in the United States. And McDonald's had a very big presence there. They bought the Grand Champion steer and things like that. And they had a McDonald land, with Ronald McDonald and all the different characters. And periodically throughout the day, these actors would put on a skit in Ronald McDonald land. So I consider myself, I was kind of a roadie for Ronald McDonald land. I would come in early in the morning. I would set up the speakers. I would, cordon off the area for the families to sit. I was in charge of security for Ronald McDonald. Anywhere Ronald went in the fair, I would have to go with him. After the skits, I would have to clean up, pick up all the used diapers and all that kind of stuff. So I was a roadie for Ronald McDonald land as my very first job. I was probably 14 years old.
And what's that got to do with the IRS now?
Well, I got paid for that, and I don't know if taxes were taken out, to be honest with you. So.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Oh, well. I'm telling. No, I'm not telling.
Yeah, 1974. I don't think I have
Yeah.
any records from that. So
No, what do you? I didn't hear a thing. I didn't hear anything.
there you go.
I don't know what you're talking about. So one last question that I'd like to throw in, a curveball question, and that's not really a curveball, but it's a different question that I learned of, like 10 unique questions I could ask. I'm just going to throw one at you. If you could have dinner or lunch with somebody famous or dead or alive that you could actually sit down and just talk with, John Maxwell got to interview the coach of UCLA,
John Wooden.
And Maxwell went in with like 10 pages of questions to ask John Wooden, and Wooden, being the really humble, nice Christian guy that he was. But let's just say you could do that. You could interview, or not interview, but sit down, have lunch with, ask whatever you want to anybody that you can think of. One person stand out to you?
Jesus.
I talk to him every day.
I do too, but to have a back and forth, I think would be amazing. I don't know if I could say anything. I'd probably be in awe of it, but I don't know if there's a program on here that's got in the United States, it's gotten kind of popular. It's called The Chosen. And it is, if you look at it, and I think they've really humanized Jesus.
Yes.
Jesus had a sense of humor. Jesus, got mad. Jesus, and it's like, he was a man just like us. And that's why I think I would just love to sit down and have a dialogue with him.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's interesting you should say that, because that has been one of my little things I've been doing lately with friends around here that I meet, is I will take the YouTube video of Jesus and Nicodemus up on the roof.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful.
It is.
So it's just really, I just been doing that just this week. So it's ironic that you mentioned that, because I'm rewatching season 1 and 2, and they're working on some new stuff now, I guess.
Yeah, I can't wait for season 3. It's like, come on, let's go,
Yeah. Well, Terry Tucker, author of Sustainable Excellence, it's been great to be with you. Be sure to sign up for, let me put that back up here real quick, Sustainable Excellence membership.com. Just go there, check it out. Terry, it has been a delight to see you again, my friend. And
thank you for having me on. I love coming on here and talking with you. You're an incredibly great host, and you're very gracious to have me on again.
Oh, good to see you, and we'll keep in touch. You need to answer your phone from now on.
Yes, sir. I will do that.
Okay, Lel, thank you, and let me. We're gonna check out right now with a little trailer here. If I could find it, to be helpful.